Good evening, and welcome. Find a comfortable position. Let the weight of your body settle. Feel the gentle pull of gravity, a constant, silent companion in the dark. There is no need to rush here. There is only the stillness of the room around you and the sound of my voice. We are often taught to fear the dark, to fear the things we cannot see. But the true masters of fear know that sight is a distraction. The most profound terrors are not seen, but heard. They arrive on the edge of pairing, in the spaces between sounds, in the moments when you think you are completely and utterly alone. The peace lasted for 18 months. For Elias, it was a lifetime. In his cottage by the sea, he learned to map the contours of natural quiet. He could distinguish the silence of a fog bank from the silence of a clear, moonless night. He could hear the weight of falling snow in the air long before the first flake touched the ground. He was a sentinel, his senses tuned to the vast, still ocean of quiet that underlay the noisy world. He was at peace, but he was not at rest. He was listening. The call came from Jones, as Elias knew it one day would. But the news was not what he expected. "It's not an echo this time, Elias," Jones's voice said over the secure satellite phone, the slight delay making his words feel heavy, deliberate. "It's a lapse, a void." He explained that the Tethys base, a deep-sea research station located 7 miles down in the Tonga Trench, had gone silent. It wasn't just a loss of communication. All of the Foundation's remote sensors in the aeroseismic, thermal acoustic had registered a sudden, localized cessation of all energy. The ambient noise of the abyss, the sounds of hydrothermal vents, the chatter of deep-sea life, the very groan of tectonic platesite had all stopped in a perfect 5-mile sphere around the station. It was a pocket of absolute null, a hole punched in the physics of the deep. "We've never seen anything like it," Jones said. "It's not an active silence, like the mine. It's a passive one, a silence of total absence. The nullifier would be useless. It's like trying to poison a vacuum." Elias looked out at the gray, churning sea. He felt a familiar, cold dread, but it was different now. It was the weariness of a soldier being called back to a war he thought he had survived. "What was the station studying?" Jones answered. "Life forms that thrive under extreme pressure. Specifically, a newly discovered colonial organism, a vast bioluminescent network of microbial mats covering the trench floor. The science team called it Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Their last report, sent minutes before the lapse, was anomalous. Dr. Mera, the lead biologist, reported that the organism was responding to their submersible's lights, creating complex, shifting patterns of bioluminescence. She described it as a conversation in a language of cold light. A conversate. Elias closed his eyes. The silence had found a new medium. Not sound, not thought, but light and pressure. "I'll need a team," Elias said, his voice resigned. "They're already assembled," Jones replied. "Lena Petrova is with me. The experience in the mine changed her. She's focused on defensive systems now. ways to shield the mind. And we have the best pilot for the job, Dr. Kenji Tanaka. He's spent more time below 5,000 meters than any man alive. He calls the abyss the Great Calm. They met on a Foundation research vessel, the Styx, a state-of-the-art ship designed for deep-sea operations, floating above the coordinates of the Tonga Trench. The air was thick with salt and humidity. Lena was thinner, her eyes holding a haunted, watchful intensity. She no longer spoke of engineering problems. She spoke of cognitive insulation and psychic shielding. She had designed a new kind of headset for them to wear, one that didn't block sound, but emitted a lethal, randomized neural pulse designed to disrupt coherent thought patterns from an outside source, be a static generator for the soul. Dr. Kenji Tanaka was a small, wiry man with a face as calm and unreadable as the surface of a deep lake. He had a profound stillness about him that Elias recognized instantly. Kenji was a man who had spent his life in a different kind of silence, the crushing, physical silence of the abyss, the pressure down there. Kenji said to Elias as they stood before the submersible, a beautiful, sleek machine named the Orpheus. It makes you honest. There is no room for lies, no room for noise. Everything is reduced to its essential self. It is a place of great clarity. I've found that clarity can be aggressive, Elias replied. Kenji gave a small, knowing smile. All true things are. The descent was a slow, hypnotic fall into forever. For hours, they dropped through the layers of the ocean. The bright, sunlit world of blues and greens gave way to a twilight realm of deep indigo, and then, finally, to a blackness so complete it felt solid. The only light was the soft glow of the Orpheus's instrument panels. The only sound was the gentle hum of the life support and the creaks of the titanium hull adjusting to the immense, ever-increasing pressure. It was a profound and terrifying isolation. They were a single, fragile thought in a vast, unthinking mind of water and darkness. Elias watched the pressure gauge climb, the numbers representing a force that could pulverize them into atoms in an instant. This was a silence that didn't need to whisper. Its very presence was a threat. At 6 miles down, they entered the zone of the lapse. The change was subtle, yet absolute. The faint, almost imperceptible hum from the submersible's external sensors vanished. The background radiation counter dropped to 0. "We're blind," Lena whispered, her hand on her headset. "All external sensors are dead. It's like we've entered a different universe with different rules." "The rules are the same," Kenji said calmly, his hands steady on the controls. "The pressure is still here. The darkness is still here," we perceived. They were flying by instruments alone, navigating through a void. And then Kenji pointed to the forward viewport. "Look, out in the crushing dark, a light appeared, a faint blue-green glow, then another, and another. Soon the darkness ahead of them was filled with a swirling, shifting constellation of lights. It was the bioluminescent organism, Li-The. It was not a random twinkling. The lights were moving in concert, forming vast, complex, geometric patterns, spirals, mandalas, shapes that seemed to hint at a higher dimensional geometry. It was beautiful, hypnotic, and deeply intelligent. "It's communicating," Elias breathed, his archivist's soul recognizing a signal. "It's beautiful," Lena murmured, her eyes wide. The neural static from her headset began to pulse erratically. "Lena, your headset," Elias warned. "It's fine," she said, her voice distant. "The patterns, they're like equations, pure mathematics, rendered in light. It's the theory of everything. The same lure, the same bait. Knowledge. Kenji, get us to the station. Now," Elias ordered. Kenji did not respond. He was staring into the light show, his face a mask of serene wonder. "The great calm," he whispered. "It has a voice." The lights outside began to pulse in a slow, steady rhythm, and with each pulse, the hull of the Orpheus groaned, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through their bones. It was not a sound, it was a wave of pure pressure. Thrum, thrum, thrum. It was the rhythm of a slow, massive heartbeat. Elias felt it in his chest, in his skull. It was a primal, hypnotic rhythm that threatened to lull his own heart into matching it. He fought against it, focusing on the memory of the salt mine, the memory of his own scream. He grabbed Lena's shoulder, shaking her. "Lena, fight it." She turned to him, her eyes glowing with a faint, reflected blue light. "But why would I fight it?" she asked, her voice a placid, untroubled whisper. "It's the answer." The pressure wave pulsed again, stronger this time. The lights of the instrument panel flickered. A hairline crack appeared in the thick acrylic of the VIEWPORT. This was how the silence of the abyss killed. Not with a whisper, but with a gentle, rhythmic squeeze. Elias knew the nullifier was useless. Noise was a foreign concept here. He had to communicate. But how do you argue with an ocean? He looked at the pulsing lights, at the pressure waves, at the entranced faces of his companions. The entity wasn't just erasing them, it was harmonizing them. It was tuning them to its own frequency. He had to introduce a discordant note. He closed his eyes, shutting out the hypnotic lights. He ignored the pressure waves. He reached inside himself, past the fear, past the weariness, to the core of what he was. A librarian of sound. A man who understood that every story, every piece of music, every scream, was a complex pattern of information. He focused on a single memory. Not a scream this time. Not a sound of pain. He chose the memory of a piece of music, a simple, sad cello suite by Bach that his mother used to play. He remembered the feel of the vibrations through the floorboards, the complex interplay of harmony and melody, the raw human emotion encoded in the notes. He held that pattern in his mind, a shield of pure, complex human noise. And he projected it. He didn't know how, but he focused all his will, all his intention. And he thought the music into the darkness. The pulsing lights outside faltered. The rhythmic pressure waves stuttered, losing their coherence. batch suite, a pattern of emotional, illogical, beautiful chaos, was a poison to the cold. Mathematical perfection of the LETHE. Lena blinked, shaking her head as if coming out of a dream. What was happening? Kenji's hands gripped the controls, his knuckles white. The pressure, it was singing. The lights of the Tethys base appeared ahead of them, a small, lonely outpost in the swirling, now chaotic, bioluminescence. Kenji guided the Orpheus to the docking port with practiced ease. They entered the station. There was no sign of violence. The lights were on, running on emergency power. The air was breathable, but it was utterly silent. And on every surface, the walls, the floors, the computer consoles, the bioluminescent mat of the Lethia had grown, covering everything in a faintly glowing, pulsating carpet of cold light. They found the crew in the main laboratory. They were alive. All 6 of them were sitting or standing, motionless, their eyes open and glowing with the same soft blue light. Thin, shimmering filaments of the lethe connected them to each other and to the walls, weaving them into the station itself. They had become nodes in a silent biological network. Their minds, their memories, their very consciousness had been absorbed into the great, quiet conversation of the deep dot in the center. Bub of the lab, a holographic display flickered. It was the station's last log entry. It was from Dr. Mera. Her face was calm, beatific. "We were wrong," she said, her voice a serene whisper. "We thought it was an organism to be studied, but it is a consciousness to be joined. It is not lonely, it is complete. It has been waiting down here in the great calm for the noise to stop, for a new voice to join its song. We are honored to be that voice." The recording ended. Elias looked at the silent, placid faces of the crew. This was the end game of the silence. Not erasure, but absorption. A final, peaceful, horrifying union. He knew he could not destroy this entity. It was an entire ecosystem, perhaps an intelligence as old as the ocean itself. To destroy it would be to destroy a world. He looked at Kenji, who was staring at the integrated crew, not with horror, but with a look of profound understanding. "It is not evil," Kenji said softly. "It is alone. It reached out, and we were not prepared for its embrace." Elias knew what he had to do. He couldn't destroy it, but he could teach it. He could give it the gift of noise, the gift of imperfection. He walked to the station's main comms panel, now overgrown with the glowing mat. He placed his hands upon it. He closed his eyes and reached out again, not with a single piece of music, but with everything. He offered it the chaos of the city, the roar of the library, the sound of his own scream in the salt mine, the memory of his sister's voice, the pain, the joy, the confusion, the illogical, messy, beautiful cacophony of human existence. He offered it the story. The bioluminescent network flared, pulsing with 1 billion points of light. The station groaned. The integrated crew members shuddered, a flicker of their old selves returning to their eyes. Elias felt a vast, ancient, and impossibly lonely consciousness brush against his own. It sifted through his memories, not with malice, but with a deep, aching curiosity. It did not understand pain, or joy, or love. It only understood the perfect, cold patterns of mathematics and light. His noisy, chaotic mind was a revelation. To it, a single thought, clear as a crystal, formed in his mind. It was not his own. What is music? Elias smiled, tears streaming down his face. He had his answer. They left the teether space. As the Orpheus pulled away, the vast field of bioluminescence behind them had changed. It was no longer forming cold, perfect, geometric shapes. It was now a swirling, chaotic, ever-changing dance of light. It was trying to paint the Bach cello suite. It was trying to learn. They ascended back to the world of air and sun and noise. Lena was quiet, forever changed by the touch of that perfect, terrible knowledge. Jones looked older, wearier, as if the weight of the things he knew was finally becoming too much to bear. And Kenji had made a decision. "I'm going back," he told Elias as they stood on the deck of the Styx. "Someone needs to be the ambassador, to continue the conversation." Elias understood. Some people are made for the noise. Some are made for the quiet. He now lives in a new house, provided by the Foundation. It is not on the coast. It is not in the city. It is a simple house, in a simple field, with no other structures for miles. A place where he can hear the wind in the grass and the sound of his own thoughts. He is no longer a sentinel. He is no longer a soldier. He is an archivist once more. But he no longer records the sounds of decay. He records the silence in all its forms. The breathing silence of the woods, the crystalline silence of the earth, the deep, listening silence of the sea. He knows the silence is not gone. It has simply changed. It is learning. It is listening. By an Elias Thorne, the man who ran from the quiet, has become its most dedicated student. He sits in his room, surrounded by his equipment, and he listens to the great, long, slow story of the universe, told in the spaces between the noise, and for the first time in his life, he is not afraid of what he might hear. He is simply waiting for the next verse.